All right, welcome everyone to the newest episode of the Bronx Muchachos podcast. I'm your host Mark, and tonight we got Danny
Year was good, everybody.
and we got Alex.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing today?
All right, please remember to subscribe, rate, review, like on Apple Podcasts, and listen to any platform where you get your podcasts. So, boys, three greatest words we can say right now is this: baseball is back. It's a beautiful thing now, man. It's absolutely a beautiful thing. We can get into the real stuff now. We can get into all the rumors. We can get into all the trades. We can get into all the free agent signings. We can get our hearts broken again because as we're recording right now, we keep hearing that Freddie Freeman is either going to the Dodgers or the Braves. He's not, and the Yankees aren't even in the picture anymore. You got Carlos Correa still out there. You got Simmons who signed with the Cubs, which made everyone happy earlier today. I mean, it's the water gates are open, man. I mean, the dam is finally broken. It's such a good thing. I don't know, man. To sit back right now, I just want to sit back with a couple drinks in my hand and just watch this thing unfold. I don't know about you guys. That's what I want to do.
What I want to do right now is I want to watch some old spring training movies like back in the day. And watch stuff, movies to get me hyped up for baseball again. Now, since we got it, and then the big game starts up. I want to see the Yankees air, but
When Passon first came out with the message, I thought it was a joke. So I was like, is this the real Passon? Especially since he got hacked earlier in the day. I was like, wait, let me double, triple verify that this is actually Jeff Passon saying this. So I was stoked when I saw it. Um, all the bad stuff that happened during the lockout literally left my brain. I was like, it's time for baseball. It's time to focus on, like Mark was saying, all the good things that we love about this game. So it's gonna be a fun ride.
Mhm.
But Cashman needs to do his job, and I think at the end of the day, we that's all we need from Cashman to do right now is step up.
Well, Hal's got to let him do his job because if Hal's ain't gonna let him do his job, then what kind of job can he do? If he's gonna if they get the they got the CBT or the luxury tax up to 230 for the first level, and Cashman can't go above it because the Yankees. I think Fangraphs turned around and said that pre-arbitration numbers or something along those lines. I think they've taken into arbitration. The Yankees are going to be at 226 million dollars. That's before they sign anybody else, before they make any trades, before they do anything else. Right now they're at 226, and they have if they're not going to be allowed to go over the 230, what's the point? And if Freeman's going to get 30 mil a year, you're talking he's going up to you're getting close to the next level. You're going to pass the 250. You're already past the 250 marker, and that's before making a deal. That's before trying to address a shortstop position, center field, possibly catcher, possibly more bullpen help, all that stuff. So I don't know.
before we get too much into this conversation, actually, guys, why don't we inform our viewers what we have in store for them for the end of the episode today?
Yeah, so on Wednesday, in the midst of all the roller coaster action that was going on, we were able to sit down with none other than WFAN Sweeney Murti, and we had great conversation with him. Thank you very much. Always thank him for coming on. But everything that you're going to hear from us and in that interview was based on Wednesday and based on what was happening at that time when when it was still very very good possibility that the lockout was going to happen and extend even into next week in a few weeks from now. So guys, listen to the end of the episode. Listen to what Sweeney had to say. We talk some baseball, but we also get to have him talk about his own personal journey a little bit, working with John and Susan, how the radio is going, things like that. Some of his favorite memories at Yankee Stadium. So keep it current, but then try to bring some fun stuff in the end of it all. But like we were just saying, Wednesday was an absolute roller coaster. I think I think we all at one point were ready just to start going bonkers that the deal was going to be done, and then the letdown, the letdown, and then Thursday comes, and then really the big holdup is the international draft. That was honestly the holdup for the to get this deal done. And I know the owners have been looking for this draft, an international draft, since 2002. It's been 20 years. They still haven't gotten it. I still think it's going to be a big fight for them to get the international draft. That's just my personal opinion on the whole thing. A lot of the Latin players don't want it, or if they do want it, they don't want it right now. They want it further down the line. The only good thing as Yankee fans was that if this international draft happens, it's not going to happen this year or for the next cycle, which I kind of already heard that those things were in the works. That whenever the CBA was signed, it's not going to happen right now. So for us Yankee fans, Brandon Maia is still on the table. So you're talking about in the past 4 years, we'll get possibly the top international prospect 3 out of the 4 years. So that's something to hang your hats on and something for minor. If you follow minor leagues a lot, like going into deep dives, like now you're talking about a deep farm system with two center fielders in Dominguez and Maia, and possibly Dominguez goes further up. He'll move over to the corner. And you got Roderick Arias, who's I believe is the future shortstop. I know Dave, who's not with us tonight. He's the president of the Oswald Peraza fan club, but I'm one of the presidents of the Roderick Arias fan club, and I'm holding the stock for long term on him.
Hey, we also got good news for Brandon from last week. The Rule 5 draft is not happening this year.
That is true, 100%. So Brandon Lockridge is going to still be on the team. So hopefully we'll have him back on at some point throughout the season as well.
Hey, hopefully with the pinstripes on too.
Yep. So one thing about this whole lockout thing is that we actually got a really good look through, MLB, MLB.com's Brian Hoke and everything that he did, kind of like broadcasting it to the world for us Yankee fans. We got a good look at Dominguez. We got a couple of looks at Volpe hitting homers. We got to see Waldichuk and Wisniewski. So I'm excited for this minor league season. But baseball's back at the big league level, and I couldn't be happier, man. All this talk about Freddie Freeman, though, is going to be kind of nervous. It really is. I really think it's going to come down to L.A. or Atlanta.
Well, yeah. The latest I heard about that we were talking about off air was they were saying that Atlanta gave the deal for what 150 million for 5 years, I believe it was, and that the Dodgers gave a real strong offer. So I think they're still trying to figure out what's happening. I don't know where the Yankees are sitting in this. I think they might have bowed out, said the numbers are going too high for them, possibly 30 mil a year. But I mean, if you're going to sit down there and go and get Freddie Freeman, and you're going to make the play to get, and you don't want to get Olsen because Olsen's going to cost you a Volpe, a Austin Wells, or Peraza, or two of the three of those guys, plus, like a Glaber, plus a Luis Heel. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's going to cost you all that capital, and you're not going to give up the capital, then spend the money. And they're not, and you can't sit. Your hands are tied on both sides because you're not spending the money, you're not giving up the capital, and these kids are gonna wind up just dying on the vine in the minors, and that's what's going to be the biggest problem that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. CC Sabathia said on R2C2 that the Yankees are content with their team. They're okay with the team that they got right now. As a fan, that's the last thing you want to hear, especially from the Yankees. Like, we're the Yankees. You got to start acting like it.
Wait a minute. CC said this?
Yeah.
Hey, CC, I love you, man, but you're on some drugs. Because our team sucked. Our team last year sucked.
No, I don't think CC thinks that we're content. He said that the Yankee ownership or Yankees themselves.
CC, you should go tell Cashman to stop smoking the weed.
They want to keep Gio.
I know it's legal in New York now and everything like that, but Cash, get off of it. It's not either right now anymore.
No.
Man, I don't understand why they're going. I like Gio. I like him a lot. But man, why are you going to keep him? Why are you going to keep him a shortstop when you can get an actual shortstop? Right. I mean, unless they're really playing this game where they're going to find a real stopgap until Peraza or Volpe are available. And I still think that the Peraza should be the shortstop, and then you move Volpe over to second base.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. We'll see how it all goes.
Let's go back to the good news.
Yeah.
Hey, no more 7-inning doubleheaders.
Yep.
Hey,
No more no more ghost runners in the extra innings either.
we got real baseball, ladies and gentlemen. Real baseball. Not no like,
Yep.
hey, guess what? We're gonna put it on the Switch for the Nintendo for everybody, and let's put it on easy mode. No more of that.
In a full 162, which is going to be great.
I was actually surprised. Actually, when I heard that, like when that news came out, I was like, "What?" I was like, "Good for you." It's like, yeah, spring training is like what now, a week or whatever now, but it's whatever. Who cares?
Yeah. So
Hey,
the first spring training game is probably going to be like the 17th or 18th for the Yankees, and they're only going
The
to play
18th.
like 15 is the 18th. So they're only playing like 15 and 16 games. That's 2.5 weeks, and then opening day at the stadium against the Sox.
But like, let's be real. Like, okay, even major league pitchers, they know that's all they really need. They only need like about 2 weeks to really get back into shape and everything. Like that's the news that we always get. So it's like, well, I'll put your money where your mouth is now. Okay, it's not a 60-game season; it's a real season. So we're gonna give you 2 weeks, and we're gonna see how you can do after 162 games.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and all those guys, all those pitchers, all the players, they've been
throwing.
anyone who needs the rehab, they've been doing everything. All the pitchers, they've been telling they've already had everything set up for them that okay, possibility of a lockout. These are the markers you need to hit month by month by month by month. If it extends longer, you need to do this, you need to do that. They're going to start. They're going to be ready to come out the gates throwing at least 50 to 65 pitches, and then they're going to build from there. So they just want to make the first few days and the rest of this week because they're reporting by Sunday. So the rest of the week is just to make sure. Okay, they're coming in there. We're going to get them. We're going to see them throw a few times. Just want to make sure that all the mechanics are right. Let's work on mechanics. Let's make sure that there's no hamstring injuries or elbows or shoulders or anything like that. The position players, the same thing, and just get them out there and do what they got to do.
And I think we can all agree that most players don't think they need 6 to 8 weeks to get ready for the season. So I think 4 weeks is perfect.
Look at the NFL; they're the same way. They don't believe they need a full month of preseason games. Just like, oh, okay, we're ready for like 2 games, whatever. Most of the good players they don't even play the real thing in baseball, in football. I mean, so baseball players are feeling the same way. If you're a great outfielder, it's like, okay, you really don't need to be out there. Great shortstop, I don't need it. Okay, a pitcher's the only one I'm going to say. They need it just to warp their arm and get them better.
Yeah.
Pitchers and catchers because you just need to get back to gotta get back in rhythm, especially if it's a new pitcher, new catcher. You just gotta get that camaraderie going. That's about as far as it's got to go.
Exactly.
And
everybody else is like whatever.
Hitters just need to see the pitches. They need to see off-speed pitches. They got to get their timing correct. I wouldn't be surprised to start the season. We're going to see a lot of slow starts.
Yeah.
Just because, even though in theory they don't need like 6 to 8 weeks of playing every day, they do need to get consistent at bats just to get timing, to see different arm angles, to see how different guys' sliders move. Because facing high school pitchers is not the same as facing a big league pitcher, even in spring training. So it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, absolutely. And it's going to be crazy about just talking about all the things all the new changes. All the arbitration numbers are going to be, or arbitration cases are going to be dealt with in the middle of in the beginning of the season. So I wonder how that's going to play out if players taking is off to a slow start. If those numbers are going to kind of dip for them because it's being held against them, or if they're on a hot start. You know what I mean? It's going to be a wild time at that point because it's now it's now in the season, and that's just another thing that some of these guys have to have weighing on their shoulders.
It's going to be miserable. Imagine going through arbitration as a player in the middle of the season. It's just like that little thing on your shoulder, that heavy feeling that that these guys are going to take your money. That's what they want to do. They're going to prove everything that that you suck. That when Dellin went to arbitration, he was like, "Yo, never again." Like, let's just settle this before arbitration. And then imagine that during the season. Oh, man.
The arbitration case of Bernie Williams. Bernie Williams almost left the Yankees because of that arbitration case.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you guys, but then again, it's like that's kind of what agents do. Let the agent do the job. Let the agent take care of that. And especially if it's during the season, it's like the players shouldn't have to be at all. It's like you pay an agent to do their job. Do your job, agents. That's it. Like it shouldn't be. It should be like okay, maybe a call once a week every now and then. Like hey, Aaron, this is the deal that the Yankees are giving you. I don't like it. Okay, I'll keep talking. That's it.
I wish it was that simple, man. I
Yeah, but
really do.
I wish
It
it was
should be.
it should be that way.
Yeah. Players shouldn't even be involved, but it is. It's their career at the end of the day. But that's why you have agents, like you were saying.
I'm not gonna disagree that it's their career, but like look at the NFL.
Yeah.
You think when Randy Moss was out there, he was caring about what was going on? No, he wasn't caring about the offseason stuff. He had his agent doing that stuff. Aaron Rodgers, he got how he just got paid right now. He wasn't caring about what was going on during the season. He just wanted to make his money. He showed what he had to do, and then he did it.
Yep. Facts.
You
You're
showed
not wrong.
exactly. So everybody, any major league baseball player watching this, just guess what? All you have to do is just take it like the NFL. Play your game to the max. You're going to get your bag. That's it.
Yep. We ready for the polls?
Sure.
Mark, you in agreement?
Yeah, I'm good. No, I'm good. No, I'm good to go. I'm good to go. I was waiting for Alex to pull the polls up.
How do I?
Just read. I know we're having a little fun. Everyone's all over the place, and Dave's usually the guy who does it all. But you know what?
I'll just
You
read
can
it.
just read them off.
I have it on my computer ready. I'm going to read it.
Just read it off.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So, in March 8th, this is before everything. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't get too mad. All right, better for the game. Bigger bases, banning shift, or the pitch clock. And the winner was banning the shift. Okay? 64% say that's better for the game. Where do you think Austin Wells starts the season? Somerset or Hudson Valley? The winner is Hudson Valley.
Really?
Yes. Hudson Valley actually won. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, tie ball. I thought he did well enough. He was going to get the bump. I thought he was going. He did really good.
I thought he was going to.
Because he did really good in the Arizona Fall League. I thought he was going to get the bump up. Even though they got Josh Bro and everything up there, I think they were going to at least push him up there and kind of give him a couple, DH him or something like that. Maybe start getting him some reps at first base. Get him like 3 days behind the plate and then see where he's at from there.
Yep. I agree. I'm not going to disagree with you, but then again, this is only 7 of our voters or followers actually voted, so it's not the most accurate vote if you really think about it. All right, here's another one. Another deadline day. Let's see how this goes. Well, we don't need to worry about that one. That's a yes. So baseball will be played. Even though it's a 50-50, we will have baseball, people. All right. All right, this one was a fun one. This was also March 8th, guys. How likely is it that MLB and MLBPA gets the deal done by tomorrow morning? We already know the truth, but the answer was for us that we had for the polls 88 votes, and it was 75%. So the winner was 75%, and look at it. We still got it. Wasn't that day, but we got it, guys, ladies, gentlemen.
Boys and girls, we got it a little bit later.
Children of all ages.
We don't discriminate here.
So here's a fun one that happened that we put out on the 9th. Who gets promoted to the next level first? Jason Dominguez, Volpe, Austin Wells, or Hayden I can't say.
Wisniewski.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, was it Winsky? I butchered their last name. The winner is Anthony Volpe. 63.2% of the viewers believe he's going to get promoted.
Okay.
On March 10th, this was a fun one. Who screwed up yesterday? Remember, we didn't have baseball back yet. Owners or players? And the winner it was a tie. 50. So 50% of our people think it was the owners, and 50% people think it was the players.
Never been done before on the show before. First time ever.
Woo!
History.
All right. So this one was the Yankees' first move. Carrera, Olson, Freeman, or Story. The winner is It's not looking good for though, but it's Freddie Freeman.
Mm.
Not looking good, but they say 50% of our viewers think it's going to be Freddie Freeman.
Mm-mm-mm.
We'll see that happening.
I'm waiting.
That's
Honestly,
so
right now, now that
disappointing.
we're thinking about it, I'm waiting for this one. I'm waiting to see what is the first ad the Yankees are going to have on their jersey and the first one they're going to have on their helmets since they're now
Yeah,
accepted.
that'll be cool. I'm looking
I'm
forward
just
to that too.
wondering what the big first move is going to be, and I can't wait for that. Then, hey, here we go. First move that will be made. Sign Freeman, trade for Olsen, Judge extension, or sign Guardy. And wow, this was actually a really close one. Freeman 50%. Judge is a close second with 41%. It just changed right now. Wow, someone just voted. Ooh. And it seems that may be it. Yep, that's it. That's all of our polls for the night.
All right. Well, everyone, I want you guys to enjoy the Sweeney Murti interview we did, and enjoy it very much. Have fun with it. Listen to all the good stuff they got to say.
Yep. And remember to like, subscribe, review, follow. Follow us on Twitter at Real Bronx at Bronx Muchachos 1 and on Instagram at Real Bronx Muchachos. It was a pleasure. Baseball's back.
Woo!
Go Yankees.
Go!
See you guys next week.
See you, fellas.
Talking baseball, the man and Bobby Fella, the scooter, the barber, and the new.
And thank you everyone for joining us. And today we have with us Sweeney Murti. Sweeney, who works for WFAN and SNY. Sweeney, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it. So, Sweeney, how's the lockup been treating you?
Well, by the time people hear this, I hope it's over. I don't know if it will be. We're kind of waiting. I've spent 2 consecutive Februaries in New York, and based on the number of snow days and cold days we've had, I can tell you that's not ideal. But yeah, hopefully there's an end to this.
So I can speak for everyone else. I hope it all ends too. As we're recording, the Players Association and the owners are going back and forth. I think one of the big keys they're doing right now is the international draft, or whether there should be or shouldn't be in pools and money. Sweeney, what do you if this is the final key? Or the final piece of the puzzle? What do you think? Where do you think this is going to wind up?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the final piece necessarily. I mean, I think it's an interesting concept, and I know that there's some pros and cons about it, but I think it's probably long overdue. It was really kind of the last part of the Wild West, and you know, I I don't know yet what kind of effect that's going to have. I'm not as well versed in the international market and how how it all unfolds. But I mean, I kind of expected that this was eventually going to happen. I'm actually surprised it's taken this long, to be honest with you.
Especially the way that I mean, the times it used to be was that just the deals were given out to 12-year-olds at any given time and just put them off they would just say, okay, you're going to be in our academy for 3 years, 4 years, whatever the case may be, or they took a 16-year-old and hid them from everybody else so the other teams couldn't scout them. Like you said, it's the wild, wild west, and
There's a lot. There is some corruption involved in that. So I would hope that the draft process is there to help clean that up a little bit and make it fairer for the players involved. And I I don't know yet how that's going to play out until we kind of see it and see how it works. But hopefully it's good for the players involved.
I hope so too. I was just reading on Twitter, Fernando Tatis Jr. came out and was saying that if there is a draft that's going to kill baseball in the Dominican Republic, and people are kind of equating that to what happened with Puerto Rico. That the minute that Puerto Rico got lumped in with the MLB draft, it kind of not tarnished, but it diminished the Puerto Rican players that are playing in MLB.
Yeah, and I don't know that to be the case. I haven't spoken to him or any of those players about that enough. I think there's an idea of trying to just level a playing field and make sure that the bonuses are legit and that there's a system to it. So Yeah, I think I'd be interested in hearing more of their opinions and see how that plays out.
I agree. But since you know, we're there, let's kind of focus on what's going on right now with the Yankees, especially, and with the hope that the CBA is signed, sealed, delivered within hours of now, or from when this podcast drops. What do you think the first moves that the Yankees need to make are, or the top three moves, I should say? What are the top three moves they should make?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. I mean, they need a shortstop and a first baseman, right? I think they're always kind of looking about pitching help, but I think their pitching was pretty good last year. It was very good last year, and I don't think it's as big an issue. I think they have some depth there that they can definitely use this year. And getting Luis Severino back for a full season, I think, is a huge plus for them. Um, but shortstop and first base are the biggest holes on this team, and I would throw center field in there as a possibility too. Outfield depth is not a strength on this roster. So I think that's something that you have to address as well. How it gets addressed really depends on how these tax thresholds play out and what the penalties are. And as we see all these issues ironed out in the CBA, hopefully soon we'll get a clearer picture on what they're willing to do, because I think they've seen, based on the way the penalties are drawn out, they are most comfortable getting up to the tax threshold and not going over it.
Well, with the reset, do you think they'll? I don't think they'll exceed the third threshold, but I think they'll. Do you think they'll go over at least the second threshold?
Yeah, it's hard to say because they haven't. They've been. It's a complicated issue, and they are really. They've been. The Yankees went over the tax thresholds quite regularly in the first 15 years of its existence, and then only in the course of the last CBA from 2017 on did they pull back. And really drastically cut their spending to the point where they weren't going over those thresholds. And it had to do with how the penalties were then drawn up, because there were added levels of penalties put in. It used to be just pay X amount of dollars, percentage dollars over it, and the Yankees regularly did. In fact, they averaged about $23 million a year just in luxury tax payments from 2002 to 2016. Well, I think they spent a total of 20 something million total since then. It's because of the way that the penalties have been drawn up. The penalties aren't just write a bigger check. The penalties are then, okay, now you're going to drop draft slots, which affects your draft pool money that you can spend on your entire draft. And if you continue to go over, that affects your international signing ability, which again, I don't know how that changes based on the international draft. So you'd have to put that in the equation. There are penalties involved that affect your entire organization, your system. And the trickle down of that is, having a weaker system, which might not allow you to trade for Joey Gallo or Anthony Rizzo at the deadline when you need to. So those are the kinds of things that, and listen, it's a choice. Okay. Steve Cohen is playing under these same rules right now, and he doesn't care. It hasn't affected him yet. I don't know if it will. He's new into this. Remember, the Yankees didn't necessarily care how much money they spent over the cap years before. They signed the check and played. But as they saw the effects of the system going forward, they altered how they spent. So I don't know how he's going to react to it in years from now if he doesn't win a World Series or 2 or 3 and is spending over and finds all these restrictions. But listen, I know this is a boring discussion. This is an economics lecture that I would fall asleep in if I was sitting there with it. But it's, it is a self-imposed cap. Yeah. But it's a cap. They see that there are penalties for going over, so they've chosen not to pay those penalties. It's not simply let's make more money and put it in their pocket. I think the Yankees, even in previous years, showed you that they'd be willing to go over those. But listen, in reality, fans don't care and shouldn't care, right? You want to see a win no matter what it costs, but they're trying to run this whole system and not get taken advantage of, because let's face it, the system is drawn up to keep the Yankees or Steve Cohen or the Red Sox from wildly outspending all the other teams. And so they're playing in line here. They're trying to play this game with the other owners because they're part of a cooperative there. And that's part of the problem with the system as it's created.
So, Sweeney, with all that being said, in terms of like first base, we all know the three guys that are out there. Well, two are free agents. One's currently on the Oakland A's. How do you think the Yankees rank Freeman, Olsen, and Rizzo in terms of want?
Yeah, it's complicated because I think you have to determine what it's going to take to get Olsen and what it's going to take to get Freeman. And if I put those two guys in separate categories because you've had Rizzo and you know who he is. I mean, he's fine to bring back, but I think his numbers have been in decline for a couple of years. And if you're talking about committing going forward, you're probably committing longer term to Olsen and Freeman than you are Rizzo. If you're talking about in terms of, I guess I would rank them in who would I want to have for the longest term? I would want Olsen for the longest term because he's younger. I would want Freeman longer than I would Rizzo because he's more productive right now. So that's how I would rank them. But, there are variables here because it's not just, this isn't a fantasy draft. It's, you have to need a willing trade partner and you have to have, there's competition for those free agents and where do they want to go? I think the easiest answer to give you is that it's not Luke Voigt because Brian admitted at the end of the season that he tried to trade him at the deadline. Well, that to me signals he's not going to be on the roster when, why would you ever admit that you tried to trade somebody on your roster? He doesn't generally do that. The last time he did that, was with Sonny Gray. And when he admitted that Sonny Gray wasn't a fit, he was looking to trade him. Well, Sonny Gray got traded. So I feel like Voigt falls into that category because you have a few first base options as you mentioned, and DJ LeMahieu falls in as a guy who could serve as a backup to that role.
Right. So
sorry, Danny.
Oh, sorry, Mark. So for a deal for Olsen, Yankees previously stated that they didn't have a willingness to add Peraza. What would a prospect package for Olsen look like? Would it be someone like Austin Wells, potentially a guy like Luis Gil, Luis Medina, top-end pitching prospects? And would they even add a guy like Voigt or Andujar, who are arbitration eligible, to a deal? Or is Oakland not even concerned about adding that type of payroll?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I mean, those aren't long-term commitments, so I mean, it's possible. I think I'm not sure what everything you laid out was reported, weeks and months ago. That's how when negotiations happen, you kind of have to move off of that. Just because you weren't willing to take this player or give this player 2 months ago doesn't mean you don't do it now. Just look at the CBA negotiations. Everyone was stuck in the mud, a month ago, and now those sides have moved, right? So when you say, do they want Voigt or do they not want to trade Peraza? Those were positions from months ago. And when you have to start making the deal, you got to start to move and figure out what's actually going to make the deal happen. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense in December when you say, or November when you say, yeah, we don't want to trade Peraza. Well, okay, but now you're 2 weeks away from the season starting. You need a first baseman. Do you want it to be Matt Olson? All right, well, are they insisting on Peraza? They like those players very much. It's hard to equate something as saying this is a deal breaker, but Volpe and Peraza are guys that they like very much. And Peraza is a guy who probably isn't getting enough love because Volpe's getting a lot of it. And Peraza is a guy who, listen, whoever ends up being a shortstop for the Yankees this year, if he gets hurt, guess who the starting shortstop's going to be? It's going to be Oswald Peraza because he's going to be a AAA. So he's going to have an opportunity here potentially if he's not traded in a deal to show you who he is. My point is, this is how close he is to being a big league shortstop. He's an injury away from being big league shortstop for the Yankees. Best way to look at it. Think of it in terms of, the Yankees signed Tony Fernandez in 1995 and he got hurt for a couple of weeks. Well, guess who got called up? Derek Jeter. It wasn't his job from then on, but that for a couple of weeks, he was a shortstop. That's kind of the position that Peraza is in now, where whoever is playing shortstop for the Yankees, that's, that guy, an injury to that guy is what's going to put Peraza in the big leagues, and they think he can handle it. Good glove. I talked to a lot of people who think he can hit. Volpe gets a lot of love because of the breakout offensive season that he had last year in the minor leagues. I talked to enough people who think that Peraza is going to hit well enough to be a big league shortstop. I can't tell you what that means exactly, other than they like him, and he's got some real big league potential. Remember, he's only a year older than Anthony Volpe. So when we talk about how young Volpe is, Peraza is only a year older.
Do you think that?
So Sweeney, go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, just to follow up on that, do you think there's a possibility that Peraza could be the opening day shortstop if they don't make a move, if they don't go for a Trevor Story or a Correa?
My guess is injury would be the only thing that would make him the opening day shortstop. I don't think there's a plan to make Oswald Peraza your opening day shortstop. I think that's far down the list.
So, Sweeney, we actually have the president of the Oswald Peraza fan club here with us, Dave. He loves Peraza. I'm gonna let Dave take over right here.
Look, I just like the kid, okay? Like, here's my thing. Yes, would Correa be the more attractive option? Yeah, absolutely. Do I see Hal spending $375 million? No, I don't, unfortunately. And I don't think his comments about Jeter in the recent past is helping his cause coming here either. I just really like Peraza. I like how he moves from left to right effortlessly. He's 21 years old. He hit, his offensive numbers were pretty good. I mean, I don't need someone to hit 387 or whatever. Just be productive. Just put the ball in play and see what happens. That's kind of where I'm at with Peraza.
I think the interesting thing about Correa to me would be this, is that, when free agency starts up again, Carlos Correa is now represented by Scott Boras, and Scott Boras's best tool is using time, letting free agency play out from October to November to December to January to February. And this is a year when you're not going to have that kind of time. And teams are coming off what they've claimed are lesser revenues and are trying to adjust to that. And there is a school of thought that when this ends, teams are going to tighten up the belt a little bit here. So if that's the case, is it possible that a guy like Carlos Correa, who's only 27 and can probably use this to advantage, would accept a one-year deal and then try to hit the free agent market in a better climate next year? If that's the case, I would think that might put the Yankees in a little bit more of a position to try it. But again, where they fall on the tax thresholds and what magic they can do to move the payroll around and make it meet their needs and desires, that's where we have to see how it works.
And so, just to circle back to the luxury tax thresholds, like, why is MLB going after these higher paying teams like the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Yankees, teams like that? Why are they going at them harder with penalties versus the lower half of the league, which have payrolls under $100 million that are being deemed, uncompetitive based on how much they spend? Like, why aren't they forcing these organizations to be more competitive rather than just go after the guys that are spending the money, like the Mets?
Well, because you're trying, they all have to work together, right? And they're trying to. This isn't free market. The Dodgers and the Yankees aren't trying to put the Marlins and the Rays out of business by outspending them. They have to play games against all these teams. And this is, this is part of the problem, is that you have such differing needs and desires within the same group. They're trying they're trying to keep teams from running away spending and thinking that that's going to lead to a terrible competitive imbalance. So that's really that's the idea behind it. They don't want the Yankees saying we can spend whatever we want. Great, we're going to spend $350, and the Rays are going to be like, well, we really can't afford to spend more than $50.
Sounds like a them problem.
We should be considered equal. We're one of 30, right? We're one of 30 teams. They shouldn't be allowed to do this when we have the same value. So you're trying to protect franchise values and this and that. Listen, I'm sorry. I don't have an exciting answer to this. This is boring economics. Okay? my dad is a retired economics professor. I didn't like listening to what he was talking about at the dinner table. Maybe I should have listened more. I listened a little, so I get it. But I mean, honestly, I could have this discussion with you, but I mean, like, do you really want, like, would you have wanted Don Fear and Bud Selig to be on this podcast and tell you all this stuff? It's drip dry.
No.
It's not fun. But there's
No, I get it, but I think there's people out there that need to hear it that don't exactly understand, because like the normal everyday fan doesn't understand this. And to have someone break it down for them and explain it.
But they shouldn't want to. And I had this discussion probably about 2 weeks ago with an agent who I was trying to get to him to try to explain. I said, listen, but I think fans need to understand. And he stopped me in my tracks. He said, fans don't even understand anything. They're fans, and like they don't care. Like, okay. But if you do care, the players have gotten an increasingly smaller share of the revenue since 2015. Owners have figured out a way legally under the collective bargain rules to keep more of the money. And that's what the players have tried to get back here a little bit. And to your point about, why they going after the big spenders, because, the other teams are crying to them and saying, like, why are you letting them outspend us? We can't spend $250 million. So why are you letting them? Because all they're going to do is win. Don't we deserve a chance to win too? I get it, but all of this stuff went in. Think about when all the luxury tax stuff went in 20 years ago. I mean, what was happening 20 years ago? The Yankees were in the World Series every year. They had just signed away Mike Mussina from the Orioles. They had just signed away Jason Giambi from the A's. And there was this fear that if you just keep letting the Yankees spend what they want, they're going to be in the World Series for the next 10 years in a row. And no one else is going to have a chance. Well, clearly that didn't happen, right? But that
they didn't win.
Mindset. And if you think about now what they're trying to do by adding extra layers, they're afraid Steve Cohen's going to keep spending more money. So they're trying to appease a very diverse group of ownership groups that all want to believe that they have equal votes, that they're 1 out of 30.
Yeah. So let me get to a more exciting question then for you, or everybody listening. Since 2017, it just seems like this team has just been taking steps backwards from going from being 27 outs away from the World Series to just going backwards to just winning wild card games after winning a division for the first time in 6 years in 2018. What do you see as the issue with the team just trying to get over that hump and get back to the dance?
Well, I think there's some luck involved in it too. I mean, consider that the team.
Oh, absolutely.
The team you're talking about, 2017, sure, they were one game away from going to the World Series, but they were also 1 game away from being swept by the Indians. And that was, and nobody would have complained then if Joe Girardi got fired, right? So there's some luck involved in that part of it. That team won 91 games, but they were a 500 team for about a 100-game portion of that season between May and August. So we look at 2017 differently because of what they did in the postseason, and there's some luck involved in what they did there.
Right.
The 2018 and 2019 teams had much more successful regular seasons than the 2017 team did. They were built better for a long season. They ran into a couple of teams that were actually built pretty good themselves, and other teams are allowed to be good. That's okay.
Yeah.
And if you think back to the last dynasty, there's some luck involved in that too. I mean, the Yankees are 5 outs away from being down 3 games to 1 to the Braves, and they're probably not going to win 3. They might not win 3 straight to beat the Braves in that World Series. In 98, they were down 2 games to 1 to the Indians, and had El Duque pitching in Game 4, right? So there was some luck involved in that. El Duque had never pitched in a playoff game for them before. You didn't know what to expect. 2000, they're losing a first round series to the Oakland A's before coming back. Same in 2001. In 2000, they'd lost the first game to the Mariners in the LCS and were losing the 8th inning of game 2 before coming back. That's not all the Yankees just destroying their opponents. There's a little bit of luck involved in getting there. And other teams are, I don't have a great answer because it all comes off as an excuse. They didn't win, right?
Yeah.
But the Red Sox in 2018 were really good. Is that an excuse? The Astros in 2019 were really good. Is that an excuse? You had a good team. You went head to head and you lost.
Yeah.
That's sports, man. That's sports.
I think my dad calls me spoiled because I'm 35. So I grew up in that dynasty era from the 90s into the 2000s. So I'm just like, man, can we just like recapture that magic 10 years?
Because the biggest mistake you can ever make as a Yankee fan, I believe, is thinking that a new dynasty is coming. Okay.
Yeah.
2009, the Yankees won a World Series, right? And they haven't won one since. The game isn't set up. Other teams, I said, other teams are allowed to be good, and then they're encouraged to be good, right? So the game isn't set up to have another dynasty. It's set up to avoid dynasties. Luxury tax setup started in 2002. Not a coincidence, okay? They tried to stop the Yankees dynasty and let other teams have a chance. So the game is set up differently here. I think the biggest mistake that you can make as a Yankees fan is thinking that if you win a World Series, that you have another dynasty coming. That's really hard to do. It is incredibly hard to do. Right. And if you don't believe it, go back and talk to the people who were part of that dynasty. They didn't think it was easy. They knew how hard it was. And they knew how much luck was involved in there as well. You create some of your own luck with clutch hits and things like that. But, you could very easily be looking at it the other way. They lose game if they had 2 big home runs to win game 1 against the Padres, and they had 9th inning home runs, the Brocious home run in San Diego, they got big hits, but this is also how close you are. The other team is competing and winning those games and potentially changing the story.
Absolutely. So, Sweeney, you brought up some like really iconic teams there, especially during the 90s. What was your favorite team to cover?
I didn't start covering the team until 2001. So I was working at FAN in a different role when the Yankees were winning in 96 and 98, 99, 2000. I didn't know those teams as intimately as I would the other teams going forward, getting to be there with them throughout. I don't know if I have a favorite team to cover. I enjoyed watching the 2009 team win a World Series from the idea of, I go to spring training and I'm there February 10th or whatever it is, and you're there all the way through whatever the last day of the World Series was, November 2nd or whatever it was. And you see the journey, you see the hard work, and you see what's involved, and you see, the payoff for them. And it was enjoyable to watch what they did. And it was enjoyable to be in the stadium and see and hear how the fans reacted, right? I was there for the clincher in 96 against the Braves, and I was there for all the games in 2009. I was there. I enjoyed, for various reasons, I enjoyed the 2003 and 2004 battles with the Red Sox and how differently they ended. 52 matchups head to head in 2003, 2004, both ending in dramatic game 7s that went completely opposite directions. I enjoyed both sides of that because I saw the drama and the history on both sides. I'm sorry. I just don't look at it the same way you guys do, where the year that they won are my favorites. It's just that, I have a job to do whether they win or lose. So I can't tell you that when they win, it's my favorite. And because I'm still going on the radio after they lose, I have to do that. I can't just, throw something against the wall.
That's it. I'm done.
Right. So I have to look at it from a different perspective. And, I'm envious that you have the the passion of the fan that you can do what you do.
Sometimes it's infuriating. I will always say that 2003 was probably the best game I had ever seen in my life. The minute Boone hit that home run into left field, like I went ballistic. I woke up my entire household, and then you flip the script to the year later. I'm at work.
Man.
I didn't care. It was
No,
great.
what I mean, what were they doing sleeping in Game 7 of the ALCS? What do you mean you woke up
My
your whole
dad-
house?
my-
Why were they sleeping?
My dad, well, my mom was a nurse, so she was working the early morning shift. My dad was a contractor building houses, so they were all in bed. I mean, that game went on until almost 1:00 in the morning.
It was late.
That went on forever. Yeah, 03, Game 7 of the 03 ALCS will probably be the best game I ever seen in my life. I don't think I'll ever see anything like it ever again, for that matter.
It's probably the pinnacle for most Yankee fans our age, Dave.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. My mom was watching that game at home in Pennsylvania, and very exciting. So she got super excited watching that game and those playoffs, and said, "Wow, the stadium, everything, it's so exciting. I want to go to a World Series game." So I'm like, "Okay." So I got my mom and my cousin tickets to Game 1 of the World Series, and they went to Game 1 against the Marlins. Well, that game was, I think it was 2-0. There was flat. There was no energy, nothing. The Yankees lost. And my mom, she tells me she's really disappointed because it wasn't like the other game. I'm like, well, yeah, okay. I mean, nothing's going to be like this. She goes, next year, I want to go to a Yankees Red Sox game. I want to go to a Yankees Red Sox playoff game. I'm like, do you know how long it took just to get to the Game 7 of the 2003 Yankees Red Sox? I'm going, okay, let's just see about this next year. Well, who knew that, 1 year later, Yankees and Red Sox would be again in the playoffs in the ALCS? I'm like, Mom, I got you covered. I got you tickets for a game, right? So I got them tickets to I forget which game it was now. But I got them tickets to one of these games, and it might have been – no, it wasn't Game 6. It might have been Game 2. I think I got them tickets to Game 2. And she was disappointed it wasn't like the Aaron Boone game. And at that point, I remember screaming at my phone saying, "Are you kidding me? That's one of the 2 or 3 or 4 most exciting games in history. When do you think it's going to happen again?" I can for the next 20 years, and you might not see that game ever again. How about just say thank you?
Yeah, I think 2003
Mom, I felt bad about that.
I think 2003 and 2004 took like 10 years off my life because I grew up a Yankees fan living in Warwick, Rhode Island, and it was absolute chaos those 2 years. And man, when they lost, they won in 03. What did I do? I was a junior in high school. I walk in with my Derek Jeter jersey on, just grinning ear to ear. Felt like I was in a funeral home. The next year, I was like, "Mom, I don't even want to go to school." She's like, "You're going to school. Get on the bus. Get it." Man, I did not hear the end of it. It was brutal. So brutal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was worse than them losing the World Series in 01 and 03. That is just but
but you guys are still young. You guys are still young, man. You got to remember back in 95 when Don Mattingly hit the home run in the wild card game. That place, you want to talk about the old stadium erupted. Now everything was shaking.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
Let me
I
ask
was there for that one. I think that, and when Posada's double fell in against Pedro.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 moments where, because, Posada's double was different than the home runs because it was just
should have been caught.
It was this little slow arcing thing, and the buildup of knowing that ball is about to drop, and what happens when that ball drops, that the tying run scores. There was a buildup to that noise instead of ball off the bat, everyone just erupts. There was a little slower build to that made everything and the impossibility of coming back in that game. That made everything, I think, shake a little bit more that night. That's
true, and the only especially that game, the one person that always gets lost in that game is Jason Giambi, who was single-handedly trying to keep them in that game with hitting 2 home runs.
Yeah.
One thing that stands out to me about that game, we're going to talk about a little bit more, but Matsui scoring and the emotion that he had. You never saw that from Matsui. He was jumping up and excited. I was like, oh my gosh, that was just a great moment. It really was. That's the pinnacle, I think. I don't think he could get any better unless we win another World Series. But that game, I think over the past 20 to 30 years, maybe even 50, that's probably one of the top 10 games, like in baseball, like ever.
Yeah, there was a lot of drama and emotion built into that, and a lot of history built into that. So, it stands up.
So, Sweeney, let's move to 2022. Aaron Judge, this is last year of arbitration. There's a chance that he's going to be a free agent. Do you see the Yankees doing an extension, or even possibly even talking extension until after the season, or how would that look?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Yankees go into this spring, whenever it starts, with their priorities. Like Aaron Judge is signed for them for 2022. They still, when the lockout ends, they have a lot of other business to tend to get ready for 2022. So I don't think that it's a priority to get him signed right now, because you have time to do that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with waiting on that. I don't think that saves anybody any money by getting a deal done early. But the one thing you needed to see heading before last season was you needed to see Judge stay healthy, right? And he did that last year. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with waiting to see him do it again. And just, if the Yankees want the player, they'll sign the player.
Right.
Certainly you're risking something like they did with Robinson Cano when they let that play out. And, you saw what another team was willing to do to sign Cano away from you. So there is that danger out there. But, I don't know when it gets done. I kind of agree that if, Judge has a regular year, that, he's going to still be here. He's got a different value to him than other players like Cano, for example. But, you just kind of wait to see how this plays out. He's going to be a rich man, and I think he's probably going to be a Yankee. When it gets done, I just don't see the urgency to do it soon because they have so many other things to do beforehand.
Right.
Out of the current crop of possible free agents, if bet your best guess besides Judge resigning, who do you think, if you give Tyone, you give Sanchez, and then say Gallo, because I believe that Chapman, Britton, and maybe even and Green might be on their way out the door. I mean, that's $40 million that they're saving right there with those three coming off the books. But Tyone, Gallo, and Sanchez, which of those three are staying? Which ones are going?
Yeah, I mean, I would guess probably Tyone if he's stays healthy and puts up a good year. But I mean, it's too early to tell you because there's so many factors going in here. I don't believe that Gary Sanchez is a long-term investment for the Yankees at this point. But I need to see what else is out there with the catchers. Gallo didn't have a good first year with the Yankees. I don't know what 2022 is going to bring and what that's going to mean. It's really too early to tell on a lot of this stuff. But I would, they definitely have to reshuffle those bullpen pieces. I think it makes Jonathan Loaisiga a very interesting player because I think he's best suited for the Yankees as a closer because it can also protect his arm. You're controlling that workload more for a closer than you are for other relievers. And I think that would benefit the Yankees going forward.
Hey, Sweeney, let me ask you something. Why does Luis Hill's name keep coming up in all these hypothetical trade packages for Olsen and Chapman and whoever else?
Well, he's a young, controllable pitcher who's had success. I mean, that's why. I mean, nobody wants overpaid people who are on the downside. You want young guys who are cost effective. And he's good. He made a good impression. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to see. That's why those guys' names come up all the time.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely good to sell high.
Too often, when you make hypothetical trade proposals, it's like, well, you take our junk and give us your superstar. That's not how it works.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
What happened?
that's
Everyone,
true.
everyone can't play MLB the Show, right?
Right.
Yeah, no.
That's a
And
hey,
Luis-
Detroit Tigers, give me Justin Verlander. I'll give you Jacoby Ellsbury. Yeah, no, that's not gonna
And
happen.
Luis Hill, he had a really good year last year. And, you're not only pitching for the team that you're playing for, you're pitching for all 30 teams, especially when you're prospect. You want to show your team, hey, I could do it for you guys, but I want to be in the big leagues, essentially. So, and Luis Hill pitched better in the big leagues than he did in AAA. And he seems like the guy that likes the spotlight. So I would trade him for a Matt Olson right now, honestly. So he's part of that package for me.
Sometimes you got to make tough choices, and like it's not even about sometimes the players don't pan out. It's at the time they have a certain value. There's a lot that goes into whether or not a player becomes a star. But at the time you're trading these guys, it's that they have certain value, and it hurts to make those trades, but it's kind of what you have to do.
So looking back on it, would you have traded Phil Hughes, Jabba Chamberlain, and forget who the third, Melky Cabrera for Johan Santana? Looking back on it,
I don't know that was exactly the what was the I don't remember. I don't remember exact trade it was. I can't say yes because I mean at the time Phil Hughes was 22 years old.
mm-hmm.
Had a pretty you
They both were young. I was against it. I was like, no.
I mean, it's hard to say because when you start going down that road and saying just trade all the prospects because they never become anything, well, you're going to run out of them pretty quickly, and then you're going to have injuries, and you need to fill out your roster. There was promise, and let me tell you something. I know people think that Phil Hughes didn't live up to his potential necessarily because the first day of spring training that Jason Giambi had picked up a bat, he struck out a couple of times against Phil Hughes and said, wow, he looks like young Roger Clemens. We all ran with that, and we expected 300 wins. Well, that's a little unfair to Phil Hughes or to any 20-year-old, 19, 20-year-old, what he was at the time. If you ask any team that drafted a high school pitcher and that high school pitcher gave you Phil Hughes's career, they would take it every single time. Every single time. We have attached some very unrealistic expectations to what we want out of people sometimes because, the bar has to be set at Andy Pettitte and above, right? And I say that because like Ron Guidry and Andy Pettitte are not in the Hall of Fame, but that's the bar that you're trying to get for all these pitchers.
Right.
And everybody, that's a tough. Everybody's going to fail if that's the bar you're achieving. Phil Hughes, look at how much time he spent in the big leagues. Look at the level of success he did have in the big leagues. If you told 30 teams that with the 24th pick in your draft, you're going to draft a 17-year-old high school pitcher, and this is the career he's going to have, they'd say, sign me up right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, let's take that question and do it a little bit more modern. Back in 2009, was it 2000? Yeah, about 2018, with when Garrett Cole was up on the block, and you had Miggy Andujar and Clint Frazier available. They wanted Clint and they wanted Miggy, and plus and
I think Betances was
plus and plus. Would you have made that deal?
Here's the thing,
and without playing the results, it's tough not to play the results.
But you can't do it that way because every trade you're going to say, would you do this? The answer to all of them are yes, because you know the hindsight.
Yeah.
Okay. The answer to all of them are yes. Okay. But I'll give you another one. How about when the Yankees were trying to get Randy Johnson, they offer among the people they offered at one point in time were Chin-Ming Wong and Robinson Cano. You think the Diamondbacks would have wanted that trade? How would that trade have looked for the Yankees if they had made that trade?
And Robinson Cano was one of the pieces that was available for the Texas Rangers to pick up with the A-Rod
deal. The Rangers didn't on a list of players. They took Joaquin
Arias.
Arias of a list of players to be named later instead of Robinson. Listen, you can play this game all day long. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, would you have done this? Well, it's not how it works. Teams don't get to make those decisions. The teams don't get to say, listen, can we jump back in the time machine and do this again, play the season out again? I mean, it's a hard job, and sometimes you make decisions that are wrong, and you just got to kind of keep moving with them. You don't get to play the do-overs.
What does an Aaron Judge extension look like for you? If you were playing general manager,
I think it's probably going to have to be something that, listen, if I was the team, I would want to sign him for 5 years, which means I'm probably going to have to sign him for 8 and deal with it. Okay. Do you want the player or not? Most times in these deals, and Garrett Cole is going to be a really good example, I don't know what years 7, 8, and 9 are going to look like. But if I want him for years 1, 2, and 3, I got to give him years 7, 8, and 9. So that's kind of how you have to deal with it.
Hey, Sweeney, to kind of change gears a little bit, how is it working with John and Susan every day? John he's beloved amongst Yankee fans, and we all love his calls. So what is it like working with him and Susan?
I think it's like asking, Luis Sojo what it's like to play with Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera, right? I mean, they're Hall of Fame. Those are Hall of Fame broadcasters. They will eventually be rewarded with Hall of Fame achievement, and I got a front row seat to that. It's pretty cool, And I talk about this at WFAN all the time. Like I'm working with, I'm Ricky Leday working, and I'm working with, John Sterling, Susan Waldman, Mike Francesa, Chris Russo, Carton and Roberts, Don Imus, all these people that are Boomer and Carton, Roberts and Beningo. And, these guys have these long careers at our radio station, Geo now. And very successful careers at our radio station. And I'm along for the ride, I mean, I have legit, 4 or 5 first ballot Hall of Fame radio people at the station that I work at and work with. It's nice to be on that team.
That's awesome. Do you have any John or Susan stories you can share with us that'll make us chuckle a little bit?
I mean, listen, here's the thing I tell people. People used to ask me this about Mike and Chris, and I'll tell you that it's kind of the same thing with John and Susan. They say, what are they really like? They're on the air together for several hours every single day. It's hard to fake that. So whatever you hear, whatever you think you hear and what they're like, that's what they're like. That's what they are. They're not putting on a show. They're just letting you listen to them while they go through that part of their day. Is there a certain performance involved in it? Sure. But, it's all live, like it's not a movie that you edit together after 7 takes and say, pick the best one. It's a live show every night and every day. And, you get to eavesdrop on that. That's what they're like.
That's awesome. Dave, you have another question for Sweeney?
Hey, Sweeney, let me ask you, fitteds, snapbacks, or stretch fits?
Sorry, I didn't hear you. One more time.
Fitted hat, snapback, or stretch fit?
I always have a hard time with just the right size on fitted, and part of it's been like how I grow my hair out. And nowadays, it's not. I don't
me too.
Yeah, I don't.
I have the same problem.
No. I get this cut every 2 weeks. I don't let it grow longer. Okay, I'm not bald. I'm just I'm it tight. But the fitted has always been kind of an issue. I don't have the right head for fitted, so I've got an adjustable, and I go more Kangol type style hats now too, because my wife seems to think they fit my head better than a baseball hat. So,
Well, the reason why I'm asking you is because we got hats on
Nice.
the way. So the reason why I was asking is because we're gonna get you one shipped as a thank you for coming on with us today and spend some time with us. So when we get off here, just let us know where you want it shipped to, and we'll make it happen.
Oh, good. That's awesome. Thank you.
And I have another quirky question for you, Sweeney. Batman or Iron Man? Which one are you leaning towards?
Love Iron Man. I have a deeper history with Batman and all the different parts of that. But I'm not a comic book guy, so Iron Man's only the Robert Downey Jr. in movies for me. I loved and my kids are now getting all into Marvel universe. So I mean, this is what we do when it snows and stuff like that all winter long. I thought the first Iron Man was just brilliant because I was watching, Robert Downey Jr. had just a perfect vibe. He has his own flaws as a person that just they dove perfectly into that character. And yeah, it's gone like, here with the Marvel universe, but I just thought the first Iron Man was just a perfectly made movie and character combination.
I personally feel like that's the best introduction movie for the MCU. Shang-Chi was pretty good, but
Origin
Iron Man was just amazing.
I love origin story. Black Panther is another good one out of the Marvel universe. There, I thought I've enjoyed every version of I haven't seen the new one, but I've enjoyed every different version of Batman's the movies that have come out. So, I don't know. I haven't thought enough about them to rank one over the other. But
Yeah.
I enjoyed Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, and the second one was a little too much. I don't think I got too much into that one. But the Val Kilmer movie, I enjoyed it when it came out. I thought that was fun. I guess the George Clooney one fell flat too. But
I don't think anybody likes the George Clooney one.
All the ones were good, and everyone says this one's pretty good, so I guess I'm gonna check it out.
It is really good. I mean, you're there for 3 hours, but it keeps you engaged. So, and they have little tidbits in there, little Easter eggs. I really enjoyed it. So I think you would too.
All right, so Sweeney, please tell everyone where they can find you. Besides WFAN, if you have go for Twitter pages, things, Instagram.
Follow me on Twitter. It's at Yankees WFAN. Most of my stuff gets linked there. You can go to WFAN.com and you'll see columns there and links to podcasts. 2 different podcasts that you'll find on Apple and Odyssey and wherever you want to get them are 30 with Murti, which comes out irregularly whenever I have some good things to drop to you, and a lot of it's some of it's baseball, some of it's movies, some of it's about baseball movies, some of it's just fun stuff that I like to throw out there. And WFAN's Baseball Insiders is just started last year, and that features me. It features Ed Coleman and some other people from now and again, just kind of breaking down. Those are a little more shorter and just kind of breaking down stuff in our own Yankees and Mets world, things like that. So hopefully you guys enjoy those.
I appreciate it. So from the boys over here, for Danny, myself, Dave, our other partner Alex couldn't make it today. He had a couple of engagements, but wanted to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sweeney. It was good meeting you.
Thanks, Sweeney.
Take care.
Thank you so much,
Nice to meet you.
See ya.